How's it going, guys? It's Poetry Son, and welcome back to the episode of the Europa Universalis 4 Dutch Return campaign. We are currently at war with France and the Ottomans in a coalition war, actually. We have Kolyma fully sieged, so it shouldn't be too long before they sort of give up, but we'll see about that. Last episode, we really got into a discussion that I'm super passionate about because I get sort of angry about and stuff, but it's something I know a good bit about. The topic of the Spanish Civil War, Franco was a dictator, Catalan and Valencian, and how all those things are connected. So I think that, so we just to recap, we sort of were talking about how Franco, during his dictatorship in Spain, was super nationalistic, super religious, and very closed-minded in that he wanted to essentially stamp out any other, it's not these closed-minded per se, he's just basically like, he's just nationalistic. How he essentially wanted to stamp out any of the peripheral areas of Spain. Any of the parts of Spain that had any different national identity did not fit in with his idea of what Spain should be, and thus were his enemies. So that becomes relevant to so we were talking about Catalan and Valencian with that. And, oh god, now I'm not even remembering what I was meaning to bring up with that, because there was a specific something I wanted to say. Alright, just give me a second. I'm going to think about this for a second while we get going here. Oh god, what was it? It was, so... yeah, so the... Okay, so, there's a... Oh man, there's a lot. This is a big rabbit hole I went down. So yeah, I think that, like, here's the thing, is, long story short, Franco basically like was suppressing Catalan and Valencian for like 30 years, and while he couldn't enforce people, you know, speaking it at home, people would always still be speaking their native language at home. In public, then the language is not being even allowed. It had a profound effect on a lot of the, you know, on the way people viewed the government. Of course, it was essentially it was a oppressive regime. You know, a lot of people like wrote protest songs and protests in the streets. There were beyond that, Franco, like, he actually, you know, he abducted like a bunch of like political enemies. You know, same way that like Stalin and Hitler and others did. If you weren't with him, you were against him, so he would abduct you, take you out back, and shoot you. That happened during the Civil War, especially in the early days of Franco's rule. Before the Civil War was over, when the nationalist army would push into a new town, take over a new town, they would like ask around, figure out like who are the people who are atheists, who are the people who are communists, who are the people who are supporters of the Republican government. Then they would take them out in trucks, take them out into the moorlands, into the fields, wherever, and shoot them and just bury them, mass burial like that. It's extremely like brutal, and it's like it's terrible, you know. But that's just something that you got to talk about if you want to have it be prevented in the future. And I sort of was going into all this because of the fact that I get really pissed off because a lot of this stuff is like, it's the same in America today. So it's not just, I'm not trying to throw shade at like Spain or anything in particular. But there are existing in Spain, there are a lot of people, maybe not a lot, probably about as many as there are in the US in similar camps. There are groups of people who actively like idolize Franco still. There are like fascist supporters who think that Franco was like a good leader. They're like, oh, he was like, oh, if only we could go back to his times. I would say, I mean, I don't know actually how big of a thing that is in Spain. Even though I spent some time there, I never met anyone who was like that, so I assume it's not too common. I'm assuming it's probably about as common as it is to find like an actual fascist in America, which is like not too common, but they certainly exist, is I guess the way I would describe it. Which could be worse, but obviously could be better. But there are a lot of people. There are some people, enough people, that Franco, his grave, which is in the like the memorial valley to the people who died in the Civil War, or some, oh god, what's the name of it? I don't remember the name. The people regularly leave fresh flowers on his grave, like on his tombstone. People leave flowers there, and I just find that like super just like I don't know, like annoying. Like it pisses me off, you know, like and concerning. There are a lot of people who supported that still, and even who supported his ideals still. However, there are also I think the thing is, though, there are plenty of people who like were brought up during his rule that are still alive today, and I think a lot of them still are. I think a lot of more conservative people in Spain are still have some of the mindset that Franco kind of promoted, which is essentially, so like regarding Catalan in particular is what I'm referencing. With Catalan, the thing is that what was I going to say? Let me take a sip of my coffee real quick. Okay, so the thing is, a lot of people today will still try to tell you that Catalan is a dialect of Spanish. I've heard that a lot in the U.S. In the U.S., it's never out of like malice. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say it out of malice. In the U.S., most of the time I have heard that in the U.S., but it's mostly people who just didn't know any better. They're like, oh, like it's a sub part of Spain, so it's like a dialect, right? And that's okay. Like that's, you know, that's everyone. Not everyone's gonna know everything like about Catalonia. I don't know everything about like, you know, France and all the different like languages there, like Provençal or whatever, and Occitan. But in general though, in the U.S., I don't think I've ever heard anyone have the same sort of malice in their message. But in Spain, though, there are a lot of people. I met people in Spain that try to tell me that Catalan is a dialect of Spanish, meaning Castilian Spanish. There's a little bit of ambiguity if you define Spanish as just Castilian, or if Spanish also includes the others, which I have heard a case made. I think there's a case to be made for that Spanish is not just one language, it is all the languages spoken in Spain. That's a more inclusive way to look at it, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. However, in general, when we say Spanish, we mean Castilian Spanish. And there are people who try to say that Catalan is a dialect of Castilian Spanish, and that just blows my mind, because it's like, for one, you just have to listen to look at two sentences, look at a direct translation from one to the other. And even with the direct translation, it can a lot of the time, sometimes it'll sound similar. Obviously, there's a lot of similarities, as there are with any Romance language. But when you just look at two sentences, translate it for word, a lot of the time they'll be completely different, especially in sound. And sound is one of the main things. It's one of the main reasons that languages are even considered different from a linguistic standpoint, is sound. Spelling doesn't necessarily matter as much. So sound is the spoken component. That is what language is. That's how language exists naturally, or whatever, you know. So, so what was I gonna say? So with that, there is the so for instance, let me give you an example. You don't have to know Catalan or Spanish. I'm gonna tell you I'm gonna say two sentences that translate the exact same, and I just, you know, listen, and you'll probably be able to tell that they don't sound anything alike, even if they mean the exact same thing, even if they are spelled pretty similar and have a lot of similar root words. So now I just gotta think of something. So let's see. Let me see. Oh god. See, I'm putting myself on the spot. I'm like, oh, you gotta think of a sentence that can be easily translated. And now I can't think of one. I'm like, I can't think of what is the thing, what is a sentence that would be grammatically simple. Oh God. Let me real quick. Let me open up my playlist Spotify of my Catalan music. I'm not gonna play any. That'd be crazy. I know it would get my video demonetized. But no, like to look at. I keep going back and forth. To look at like some of the names of songs to get reminded of the lyrics. Because here's the thing: is like I think I'm pretty confident that I can translate a good bit, but I just can't think of anything to say. So, we'll come back to that. But suffice it to say, they sound very different, and are formatted different in a lot of ways. So when I hear people say that they think that Catalan is just a dialect of Spanish, I do think there's a little bit of a lost in translation sort of connotation that dialect doesn't I think some Spanish people don't necessarily mean when they say dialecto, which is like, dialect. They don't necessarily intend to say dialect in the way we think of a linguistic dialect. I think lots of times they just mean one of the regional languages in Spain. I think that's another misconfusion. So I don't think so sometimes I may be misinterpreting, but there are definitely people I've met who have been like, no, it's a dialect. It's not like a real language, and that is just not true. But yeah, so that's it's a thing that people say, and it pisses me off because it is a in my opinion at least, it is one of the it's a view that harkens back to the days of Franco. It is the view that he was always actively trying to promote. He would, behind closed doors, domestically, he was basically trying to stamp out Catalan and not just Catalan. I'm focusing on Catalan. Galician, which is Gallego in Spanish. Gallego and Basco and, Asturian or whatever, all the other ones. He basically tried to, get rid of them. And then to the public, though, exterior to, like, talk when he was on the global stage, he didn't explain it that way. He didn't talk about this. He actually then would turn around and basically be like, he would say, oh, it's okay, because those are just dialects of Spanish. And that was something that I believe at least, that he originally sort of promoted, because he was he wanted to minimize the importance of those languages while also trying to stamp them out, because he realized that they weren't just minimal things. They're not just a tiny difference. It actually is like a whole other language. But he tried to minimize that and lied basically about that, saying, no, it's just a dialect, to minimize the cause of those languages, for one. And that is, it's just terrible. So, yeah, I don't know. I want to get out of this war. Alright, so let's see it. My Spotify is open now. Okay, I wonder if I could play one of these songs just for like a little bit. Some of these songs are like 50 years old. Maybe they're in the public domain. Hold on. Let's see. Give me 1 second. 1 second here. But even just like looking at this is... No, whatever. Let's look for a name of a song. Okay, so here's one. So there's this song called Homenage. So it's Homenage a Teresa. Homenage a Teresa. Which means like like homage to Teresa or whatever. And in Spanish it'd be homenaje a Teresa. So that one isn't too different, but that's also partially because that's just a name for part of it. But homenaje, and actually in Catalan, that's in Valencian. In Catalan, it would be homenaje versus homenaje in Spanish. There's a big difference there. For one, in Catalan, it goes homenaje. In Spanish, it's homenaje. So it's the je versus the j. And there's a bunch of that stuff that's different in those two words. they look pretty similar on paper, but they are not pronounced anything alike, really. So I don't know. So the whole point of me talking about this was basically to say that, like, there's this sort of, this opinion that some people try to espouse that is basically trying to support the idea, trying to posit that Catalan is just a dialect of Spanish, and that is absolutely, if not true. If you hear anyone say that, please, for poetry side, correct them, because I mean, I'm not Catalan, so I'm not really personally offended, but I don't like it's it comes to that. A lot of times people just say it because they don't know any better. That's fine, but some people do actually mean it when they say it. They think that they're saying the truth, because they're. And it comes from a long tradition of nationalist sort of minimization of the peripheral regions of Spain, trying to basically say, oh, those regions, they don't have their own language or anything. No, it's not different. It's not actually different, and that's messed up. So, yeah. So that all that being said, the reason I actually went into that whole thing is because then there is the idea of, that's why I think a lot of people get offended when you're talking about Catalan versus Valencian. Because when you say that linguistically Valencian is a dialect of Catalan, it brings up those same sort of those sentiments, like it's almost like it's too close to what Franco was doing. Even though Valencian and Catalan were both victims of the same sort of suppression, you know. So it's but it still is understandably so a touchy issue for Valencian and even Catalan speakers. Mostly it's Valencian speakers getting offended that their language is being called a dialect. And it's because it seems to imply that it's not markedly different, or that it's not separate in its own way. And that's the thing, and that's why I think that it's a big misnomer. I think the reason a lot of people call it a dialect is because of the fact that Catalan is obviously more wide-spoken by a good margin. Also, historically, Valencian came from Catalan. Like, Catalan settlers came into Valencia when it was reconquered from the Moors, and a lot of the Muslim population left. A lot of the people that came in and took up the farming spots there and stuff were Catalan speakers, a lot more than Aragonese or Castilian speakers or anything. So, no sip of coffee, one sec. So those, I can probably get out of this war, honestly. So those people, what were we going to plan on doing? I don't actually remember. So we're going to get our new vassal. And then I think I was going to, I think I was going to take over all of Picardy. I think I kind of decided, whatever, even though it's not really, even though I had said I was just going to go up to Netherlands stuff. At this point, I think we can extend that to, Normandy, at least. I think that's what we had decided on, is all the English Channel, so why not? Honestly, at this point, why not? Looks like we can't take that much, that's fine. We'll take Broy. No, I'm just kidding. Or Metz. I guess we'll take Metz, because that way it borders Aachen, you know. It's more like a direct, three-corner situation that we can expand on from there. I like that. I like that a lot. Do we even have any... Yeah, because I think the plan had originally been to release, Alsace or someone, or Lorraine, but all those cores have gone away now. In fact, there's a lot of cores that have gone away. I think, even, the Swiss have been eradicated mostly. Jeez. That's okay. In fact, actually, they've started expanding Burgundian culture even more, which is nice for us, but, yeah. Yeah, what we'll do is we will, make a client state in Metz, so that's gonna be the plan. That's a lot of stuff. That's 6 war score or so, 5 war score or so. We can probably take another province somewhere else, maybe? Colonial land? Any colonial land? You have Australia or New Zealand, don't you? Yeah, that'll work. That'll do. That'll do. Alright, that works. Yeah, there we go. Cool. Hold on. Before we do this... Okay, yeah, we have plenty of extension room, so... Get wrecked, France. Oh, wait, we can't release this yet. Ah, that's fine, whatever. Just don't do Mets. Anything but Mets. There we go. And you know what? I don't think I need to do... Hold on. Oh no, that's not good. Ah, rip. Alright, Ottomans, are you gonna just, like, just leave me alone? I don't want to deal with you. Not really worried about the Ottomans. They can't really do anything to hurt me. Don't want to come up to here where I have a bunch of woods, then they can, but, yeah. So yeah, what were we talking about? So I think a lot of people, I think a lot of people, also yeah, so I don't think, so a lot of like Catalan speakers, or Valencian speakers especially, get offended when people call their language a dialect. And that's the thing, is I think they are right to be in a lot of ways. I think that the thing is, though, I don't know. I think that it's almost like saying, I think the difference between, I honestly think that the difference between Catalan and Valencian is like the difference, and I listen to like a lot of Catalan music, a lot of Valencian music. I have Valencian friends. I have Catalan, like my professor is Catalan. I have a good bit of experience on both sides. Of course, I've only been working on this for like a year or so. There are people who've studied this like their whole lives. So, but I don't know. Like I would say to me, oh god, the game is so laggy. Why? Oh my god, the Ottomans. What are you doing, Ottomans? But yeah, in general, I think that it's almost like the difference between American English and British English. I think that's almost a perfect example of the difference between Catalan and Valencian, because there's a lot of vocab that's different, but not a ton. And normally if you said what the other one would say, people will still know what you mean. And that is the same with English from America and Britain. If you say, I'm going to use if you're in, depending on context, of course, as always, but like if you say, for instance, if an American, also if, let's see, I guess I should say, like, if a British person says something to me, if a British person says, for instance, what's a good example? For instance, I know that people in Britain use the word trolley to mean a shopping cart, what I call a shopping cart. And in fact, even in the south of the U.S. where I live, a lot of people say buggy. I don't say buggy, I say shopping cart, but that's because I'm not really southern. But still, that's something that is said, is people say shopping cart here, or buggy, whereas they say trolley in Britain. And so that's interesting to me. That's super interesting to me. I love learning about stuff in general, but like, but beyond that, like I would know what a British person is saying, because I've heard that once or twice before. I don't know many British people, but I know enough about British English that I would know what they mean. I think it's the same thing with Catalan and Valencian. For instance, the word for, like, the verb for to exit or to leave in Valencian is, oh god, now I gotta remember. It's eixir. Let me double check myself on that. Eixir, whereas in Catalan it's sortir. So they're two completely different words. Eixir, was that right? Did I spell it right? Yeah, I did. It says to emerge for that, but I think in Valencian it means like to exit or to leave. But yeah, so that's one example. However, if someone says one of those to the other person, to someone that is Valencian, to someone who's Catalan or whatever, vice versa, they will understand what they mean, and that's the same way. So I think that's the thing, is I think that, and people in America don't get offended if you call American English, it's English. You know, we're not, that's the thing, is like we are not offended when people call our American English like a dialect. If anything, it's more like and here's the thing that's interesting about it, is that like, you know, if you think about it, neither is really a dialect of the other. Both of them are sort of evolved from whatever was spoken in England 250 years ago, which certainly is different than it was today in both the U.S. and in England. So to say that one is a dialect of the other, it implies that, like, oh, the British English is like the original. I mean, in this case it kind of was, but to imply that it was like, you know, it's it almost, I think a lot of people think that when you say dialect, it implies some sort of like superiority or originality, whereas I don't think that's the right way to look at it. I think when we look at like American English versus British English, the right way to look at it is like they are both dialects of English, if that makes any sense. English is like English is sort of like, there are different sub-dialects of English, but there's not really, it's not like there is at all an original English. It's just like, okay, where are these separatists? They keep doing, or zealots. I think that's the right way to look at it, is like, they are both dialects, but they're not dialects of a particular type of English. It's not like any type of English is the one that others are dialects of, because that implies that they're based. I guess that's the thing, is like, even if they are like coming from it originally, languages aren't normally, it's not like we base our dialects off of the other ones. We have our own things at this point, you know. So that's the thing, is like, I think that when people think that when you say dialect, it means that it's like your spoken language, what you speak, is referring back to this sort of like original or more pure or something language, the base of it. But I don't think there is a base. I think that it's more like, it's almost like a grouping thing. Like English is a group of different English languages. I think that's more and more how a lot of I don't really know too much about this, but I do think that more and more like linguists are do sort of approach it like that. It's like English is the group of languages, or, you know, spoken dialects, none of which there isn't. It's not like one of them is a language and any one of them is a dialect. They're all just dialects of the grouping that is English. And then within English, of course, then you have all those dialects, you know, whether that be, and there's dozens, you know, that's the thing, is like people think there's, oh, American English, British English. No, there's like, you know, Australian English, there's like English from India, which is its own thing, you know, there's English from like South Africa, from Jamaica, from, you know, Canada, from parts of the US, from like different parts of the US have their own thing, like Minnesota, Ohio, like the South, New England and stuff, you know, New Yorkers, New Jersey accents, you know. And all of those are dialects of English, but there is, again, it's kind of a myth almost. There's no actual, it's not like there's an original English. There is no thing that they are dialects of. They are just all different variations of English. So I think that using that attitude, it becomes a lot easier to explain the situation with Catalan and Valencian. Okay, you're converting, that's good. I think it becomes a lot easier to explain the situation, or to maybe think of a way to think of a new way to approach the situation there, when you think about it like that, when you don't think about it as being superiority or originality. Because the thing is, I think that it's almost like, when you think about Catalan, if anything, it's almost like, I think the best way to approach it is think, there's no Catalan. There's no like pure Catalan. They're all different dialects of the same, or different like branchings of the same family. So what I always say to people is that I consider it basically to be like, there's like the family of Catalan languages. Within that family of Catalan languages, within those, within that grouping, there is no original Catalan or whatever. Within that grouping of things that we call the Catalan languages, then there is Valencian, there is, you know, normal Catalan or whatever. Again, I'm saying normal, you know what I mean, like from Catalonia. It's not any more normal than Valencian or anything. There is Catalan from Mallorca, and those are like the three main branches. I'm not even going to call them dialects, but even though that's the term people use, but the three main branches of Catalan, Interesting. I don't think I really care to take anything from the Ottomans. No, we'll take Ajuran. Why not? Yeah, let's get out of this war. I'm sick of it. Hey, nice. We managed to live in that war. I mean, I didn't have any doubt. In fact, the Ottomans are a lot weaker than I actually thought they would be. Or we're just stronger than I thought we'd be. One of those two. But yeah, so I think there is a, there's a certain aspect of, what? Oh, no, I was going to make a client say, that's right, we don't have anything here. I'm going to wait till it converts. So there's no, like, one specific base Catalan. There's these, like, sub-groupings. And even past that, then it gets even further. There's, like, the spoken variety of Catalan that's spoken in Barcelona has its own unique things about it. The one in Lleida, in the western part, is its own unique thing. Its own unique thing that's somewhat of a mix of Catalan and Valencian. Then there's the Catalan that's still spoken in southern France, in Roussillon. That's a whole nother thing. So I find it super interesting. But I don't think that dialect is necessarily the right word. But I also don't think that when people say dialect, they mean it. Well, some people probably do, but it normally, I don't think it should be used. I think it's still okay to call Valencian a dialect of Catalan if you are referring as Catalan being like just this overall grouping of languages, not being specifically from Catalonia. Because there is, I think that's the reason a lot of people are upset when you call, a lot of Valencian people, the reason they get upset when you call Valencian a dialect of Catalan is not because they are offended by the like language aspect of it. It's rather they fully, I think almost any Valencian person fully recognizes the Catalan language aspects that date back to Catalonia when it was originally brought over to Valencia by settlers and stuff. Like, it's undeniable that Valencian is related to Catalan, that they're related, that they are like super similar. So I think that's the thing. That's not necessarily that's undeniable. I think the thing that people are upset by, rightfully so, is the idea that by spreading Catalan to mean Valencian too, that it'll also include Valencian politics in Catalan politics and subjugate them. So essentially, like, the Catalan separatists a lot of times will say that Valencia should also join them in their wishes to be separate, and that is the thing that offends a lot of Valencian people, because they're like, because that same national, or like, well, it is nationalist, that same like independentist mindset is not nearly as prominent in Valencia, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think if they don't want to be separate, they shouldn't need to, they shouldn't need to fall in line with Catalan thinking. So I get that. But at the same time, it's undeniable that Catalan and Valencian are like not the same language, but two dialects that are interchangeably, or both equally in the Catalan family of languages. I don't know. It'd almost be better if there was like some sort of third term that you could use to say like, actually, I think there is actually. It would be like, so this part of Spain, this whole like eastern coast, is called El Levante in Castilian, but in Catalan it's called El Llevant. It literally translates to the Levant, almost like like the Middle East, because it's and it sort of has the same meaning, I think, originally. But so this area, I think that's actually one thing that people will call them. They just say it's Catalan and Valencian are both Levantine languages. Again, not Levantine referring to Syria and Damascus and that stuff, but like that part of Spain, which is historically called the Levant as well in Spain. So this will be like, I think it'll be like, we have like Aachen and like, oh, we should call it West Francia. That's perfect, actually. You'll have them be a monarchy, that's fine. Monarchy. Local dynasty. Yeah, Um, the eagles are fine, I think. Let's just get like the colors to be. Oh wait, no. Kind of like that blue. I think you can always change this. Unlike some other stuff. So yeah, I do think that though. Yeah, it's almost like if you call people the if you call the Catalan and Valencian together the Levantine, they're both dialects of the Levantine language grouping, then it makes it very unambiguous that these are both basically they're both equals. They're both equally dialects of whatever the base form is. There is no base Catalan or whatever, but they are certainly related. They're certainly like the same at its core, and historically they are just different. Now, I don't know if that makes any sense. The same, again, going back to my example about American English versus British English. It's not like one is more pure or anything than the other. They are just two different sides of the same coin, and they are mutually intelligible is the main thing, I think. That's the big thing, is that when you are a Catalan speaker talking to a Valencian speaker, they're mutually intelligible, and that's the important thing. That's why I think they are still, still the same... again, it's kind of hard to... It's all about language and wording, They're still the same core sort of meat. I don't know. Video's gone way over on time. That's okay. I only am going to record these 2 videos today because I got to go to bed soon. It's already 12:30. Try to get bed by 2. Yeah, 12:30 in the morning, so past midnight. Yeah, this is a good place to end it, but hey, we have our little West Francian vassal. That's pretty nice. I like that flag, it's very Frenchy. Frenchy? I don't know. Anyways, whatever. Thank you guys for watching this episode. The past 2 episodes were very, I took a big dive into a subject that is quite complex, quite controversial in a lot of ways, and of which I don't necessarily have the most knowledge about. So thank you for bearing with me if you made it this far. Sorry if I wasn't focusing completely on the game, but I think we did everything I wanted to do, and about the time I wanted to do it. That's fine. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Please go leave a like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye.